Wreaths Across America is about to begin its annual Escort to Arlington this week, the nation's longest veterans parade, and it's intended to honor and remember our fallen heroes while instilling the value of freedom in the next generation. And joining us this morning here on Jersey Magazine is Mel Russin. He is the location coordinator for the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Mel, good morning. First, for our listeners who may not be familiar with Wreaths Across America, tell us about that.
Well, Wreaths Across America, let me start out by saying I'm not only a location leader, I also sit on their board of directors, and I'm also the treasurer for Wreaths Across America. But today and this week, I primarily focus as being a location leader. Wreaths Across America started years ago, 33 years ago, with a gentleman by the name of Morrill Worcester, who has Worcester Wreath Company in Columbia Falls, Maine. And that year, 33 years ago, he had some wreaths left over and didn't know what to do with them. And he remembered winning a contest. He sold the most newspaper subscriptions in Bangor, Maine. And he won a trip to Washington, D.C. And part of that trip was a visit to Arlington. And he remembered that. So what do I do with these 5,000 extra wreaths? He called his state senator, Olympia Snowe, got permission to go to Arlington. And his family did that for the next 4 or 5 years until a photographer from the New York Times took the iconic picture that we see so often of the white headstones and the green wreath and the red bow, and it had just started to snow in Arlington, a light snow. Well, that went viral. And a year or two after that, it became something that it was deemed appropriate to make it into what it is today, Wreaths Across America, a 501c3 nonprofit. Every year, volunteers, I believe last year it was something like 65,000 volunteers showed up at Arlington. Without notice, it's just on their bucket list. And they come and they have the ceremony to begin with, an opening ceremony, and then they go out and they place the wreaths on the veterans' graves at Arlington, which is what we do here throughout the United States. It might be interesting for your listeners to know that this year we're at over 4,500 locations in the United States and abroad. And we've got something like 7,200 individuals like myself who are called location leaders who take care of those. And we're on task at about 3 million wreaths this year to go out to veterans to remember their service.
I was mentioning to you before we came on the air this morning that I was at last year at Jonathan Dayton High School in Springfield, where I'm one of the baseball coaches. I was at that ceremony and watching those trucks, Mel, come into the parking lot, just truck after truck. It was very, very moving, as was the ceremony inside. I learned so much about the history of Springfield in the Revolutionary War, the First World War, so on and so on. It was an incredible evening.
And it's funny you should say that, because I had the opportunity to go to that stop as well. And the students did a marvelous job during that ceremony. And these stops are at local towns, municipalities along the East Coast as the convoy travels from Maine to Arlington. So for the last 12 years, one of the stops has been here in New Jersey, and it's the one you mentioned at the very beginning, the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial. that memorial is unique unto itself in that it is the only memorial to Vietnam in any state except New Jersey. There's only one museum and memorial other than the national one in Washington. So New Jersey is rather unique in that respect. And as much as there's not a actual ceremony at the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans, I like to do what I call I dress the memorial. And that's going to happen this Sunday, where we take 366 wreaths and we place a wreath at the base of each one of the granite panels, which represents a year in the conflict, the Vietnam conflict. And those panels have names on them. Those names were copied from the wall in Washington and carried up to New Jersey and engraved on those panels. It represents a year in succession, day after day, and I believe there are only 7 panels that do not have a name on them of someone from New Jersey who was killed on that day, lost their life in Vietnam. And I believe there was or will be shortly a ceremony there to add a name to that wall. So it's really a beautiful place to hold a ceremony and remember all those veterans who came home, who did not come home from Vietnam. And there's a museum and what have you. So that's a stop I've always enjoyed doing. You mentioned that it's not stopping there this year, and I'll tell you why. Early in February, I woke up in the middle of the night questioning whether there's ever been a ceremony to honor all those men and women who've been lost and buried at sea. And to the best of my knowledge, and most people agree with me, there's never really been a ceremony to that extent. So this year, instead of stopping at the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the convoy is going to stop and we're going to do a ceremony in the Inlet in Point Pleasant Beach. And we will do a ceremony not only on land, but also off of several ships that'll be stationed in the inlet to remember all of those men and women who have been lost and buried at sea.
And the date of that, by the way, is this coming Wednesday, December 11th. 3 stops here in New Jersey, Jersey City, Point Pleasant Beach, as you just mentioned, and then in Burlington Township. Mel, for listeners who want to learn more about Wreaths Across America, maybe how they can get involved, what's the best thing they can do?
We have, in my opinion, an absolutely marvelous website. Just put in Wreaths Across America, it will come up. It has so much information that you have to just scroll down, look for what you're looking for. There's news media resources. There's educational resources. We just recently revamped our entire education program. And that program has a lesson plan from K to 12, grade specific, and it's free to any school district, any school who wishes to use it. And it's, if my memory serves me correct, we've reached almost 700,000 students at this point with that program. We have a mobile education exhibit, which will be at Point Pleasant this year. That mobile education exhibit tours the United States, and you can check the schedule for that and see where it will be in your state if it's in your local municipality. But the website itself gives you the opportunity to sponsor wreaths, to get involved as a volunteer. Perhaps there's a town in New Jersey that has a small cemetery that has not been registered, and you would like to honor those veterans that are there. You can sign up and become a location leader, register that cemetery with their permission, and hold a ceremony every year.
Wreaths Across America, its annual Escort to Arlington coming up this week. Mel Russin, thank you so much for your time this morning and best of luck with this year's event.
Thank you so very much. It was a pleasure.